All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh. Peace and blessing to the elect of Israel who are practicing the law of liberty. So today we will continue with our Lost Book series. Today we will get into the book of the Testament of Zebulun. Zebulun. Zebulun means exalted. Zebulun was the 10th son of Jacob, the 6th and last of Leah, and the progenitor of the Zebulun, the tribe of the Zebulun tribe. Zebulun, the 6th son of Jacob and Leah, the inventor and philanthropist, what he learned as a result of the plot against Joseph. Zebulun was the 6th son of Jacob by his wife Leah, and the 10th of all Jacob's sons. Zebulun's birth came during an ongoing rivalry between sisters, Rachel and Leah, for their husband's attention. So upon Zebulun's birth, Leah said, "Power has endowed me with a good gift. Now my husband will dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons." Leah used a play on words here. Power has endowed Zebed me with a good gift, Zebed, and now my husband will dwell, Zebal, with me. The name Zebulun means dwell, also translated honor, and sounds much like the Hebrew word for gift or endowed. So the Bible doesn't talk about Zebulun's life too much. We know that Zebulun was among the older brothers who conspired to kill their younger brother Joseph because of jealousy. In the end, they did not kill him, but sold him to the traders headed to Egypt. Zebulun and his brothers had evil motives, but power used their wicked plans to save the entire nation of Israel. Although Zebulun is not mentioned by name in this account, he had an equal part in the deception and was also present decades later when they were reunited with the brother they thought was dead. Jacob pronounced a blessing on each of the 12 sons before he died. To Zebulun he said, "Zebulun will live by the seashore and become a haven for ships. His borders will extend towards Sidon." Zebulun had 3 sons, Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. Their descendants became the tribe of Zebulun. Centuries later, the tribe of Zebulun was given an allotment within the promised land. Their eastern border was the Sea of Galilee, and their western border eventually stretched to the Mediterranean. Before he died, Moses also blessed the tribe of Zebulun, saying, "Rejoice, Zebulun, in your own going." Once settled in their land, the tribe of Zebulun became traders and sailors and profited much by the seagoing trade. During the wanderings in the wilderness, the tribe of Zebulun was led by Eliab, son of Elon, and they numbered over 57,000. During the time of Judges, the prophetess Deborah advised the commanders of the army to take men from Naphtali and Zebulun to go against the enemy. They were considered brave risk takers. Although Zebulun's name is rarely mentioned in Scripture, he was part of the foundation of power built for a nation that would one day produce his son, Yahushua Hamashiach. The 12 tribes of Israel founded in Genesis are still prominent in the book of Revelations. John described the New Jerusalem, and Zebulun is represented. It had a great high wall with 12 gates and with 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Zebulun's name is inscribed in heaven, not because of the good he did or the life he lived. He is important in heaven because power chose him to be part of his plan to redeem mankind. So that's just a little entry on Zebulun. So now let's go to the Testament of Zebulun. Zebulun, the 6th son of Jacob and Leah, the inventor and philanthropist. What he learned as a result of the plot against Joseph. The copy of the words of Zebulun, which he enjoined on his sons before he died, in the 114th year of his life, 2 years after the death of Joseph. And he said to them, Hearken to me, ye sons of Zebulun. Attend to the words of your father. I, Zebulun, was born a good gift to my parents. For when I was born, my father was increased very exceedingly, both in flocks and herds. And when with the straight rods he had his portion. I am not conscious that I have sinned all my days, save in thought. Not yet do I remember that I have done any iniquity except the sin of ignorance, which I committed against Joseph. For I convened with my brothers to tell my father what had been done. But I wept in secret many days on account of Joseph, for I feared my brethren, because they had all agreed that if anyone should declare the secret, he should be slain. But when they wished to kill him, I adjured them much with tears not to be guilty of this sin. For Simeon and Gad came against Joseph to kill him, and he said unto them with tears, Pity me, my brothers, have mercy upon the bowels of Jacob, our father. Lay not upon your hands to shed innocent blood, for I have not sinned against you. And if indeed I have sinned, with chastening and chastise me, my brothers, but lay not upon me your hands for the sake of Jacob, our father. And as he spoke these words, wailing as he did so, I was unable to bear his lamentations and began to weep. And my liver was poured out, and all the substance of my bowel was loosened. And I wept with Joseph, and my heart sounded, and the joints of my body trembled, and I was not able to stand. And when Joseph saw me weeping with him, and them coming against him to slay him, he fled behind me, beseeching them. But meanwhile Reuben arose and said, Come, my brothers, let us not slay him, but let us cast him into these dry pits, which our fathers digged, and found no water. For this cause the Lord forbade it, that water should rise up in them, in order that Joseph should be preserved. And they did so, until they sold him to the Ishmaelites. For in his price I had no share, my children. But Simeon and Gad and 6 others of our brothers took the price of Joseph, and bought sandals for themselves and their wives and their children, saying, We will not eat of it, for it is the price of our brother's blood, but we will assuredly tread in it underfoot, because he said that he would be king over us. And so let us see what will become of his dreams. Therefore it is written in the writings of the law of Moses, that whosoever would not raise up seed to his brothers, his sandals should be unloosened, and they should spit in his face. And the brethren of Joseph wished not that their brothers should live, and the Lord loosened from them the sandals which they wore against Joseph their brother. For when they came into Egypt, they were unloosened by the servants of Joseph outside the gate, and so they made obstinance to Joseph after the fashion of King Pharaoh. And not only did they make obstinance to him, but were spit upon also, falling down before him forthwith. And so they were put to shame before the Egyptians. For after this the Egyptians heard all the evils that they had done to Joseph. And after he was sold, my brothers sat down to eat and drink. But I thought pity for Joseph, did not eat, but watched the pit, since Judah feared lest Simeon, Dan, and Gad should rush off and slay him. But when they saw that I did not eat, they sent me to watch him till he was sold to the Ishmaelites. And when Reuben came and heard that while he was away, Joseph had been sold, he rent his garments and mourned, saying, How shall I look on the face of my father Jacob? And he took the money and ran after the merchants. But as he failed to find them, he returned grieving. But the merchants had left the broad road and marched through Trogagalites by a shortcut. But Reuben was grieved and ate no food that day. Dan therefore came to him and said, Weep not, neither grieve, for we have found what we could say to our father Jacob. Let us slay a kid of goats and dip it in the coat of Joseph, and let us send it to Jacob, saying, Know, is this the coat of thy son? And they did so, for they stripped off from Joseph his coat, when they were selling him, and put upon him the garment of a slave. Now Simeon took the coat and would not give it up, for he wished to rent it with his sword. And he was angry that Joseph lived, and he had not slain him. Then we all rose up and said unto ourselves, if thou givest not up the coat, we will say to our father that thou alone didst this evil thing in Israel. And so he gave it unto them, and they did even as Dan had said. Chapter 2. And now, children, I to you keep the commandments of the Lord, and show mercy to your neighbors, and to have compassion towards all, not towards men only, but also towards beasts. For all these things' sake the Lord blessed me, and when all my brothers were sick, I escaped without sickness, for the Lord knoweth the purpose of each. Have therefore compassion in your hearts, my children, because even as man doeth to his neighbors, even so also will the Lord do to him. For the sons of my brethren were sickening, and we are dying on account of Joseph, because they showed not mercy in their hearts. But my sons were preserved without sickness, as you know. And when I was in the land of Canaan by the seashore, I made a catch of fish for Jacob my father. And when many were choked in the sea, I continued unhurt. I was the first to make a boat to sail upon the sea, for the Lord gave me understanding and wisdom therein. And I let down a rudder behind it, and I stretched a sail upon another upright piece of wood in the midst. And I sailed therein along the shores, catching fish for the house of my father, until we came to Egypt. And through compassion I shared my catch with every stranger. And if a man were a stranger, or sick, or aged, I boiled fish and dressed them well, and offered them to all men, as every man had need, grieving with and having compassion upon them. Wherefore also the Lord satisfied me with an abundance of fish when catching fish, for he that shareth with his neighbor receiveth manifold from the Lord. For 5 years I caught fish, and gave thereof to every man whom I saw, and sufficed for all the house of my father. And in the summer I caught fish, and in the winter I kept sheep with my brethren. Now I will declare unto you what I did. I saw a man in distress through nakedness in wintertime, and had compassion upon him, and stole away a garment secretly from my father's house, and gave it to him who was in distress. Do you therefore, my children, from which power bestoweth upon you, show compassion and mercy without hesitation to all men, and give to every man with a good heart. And if you have not the wherewithal to give to him that needed, have compassion for him, and bowels of mercy. I know that my hand found not the wherewithal to give to him that needed, and I walked with him, weeping for 7 furlongs, and my bowels yearned towards him in compassion. Have therefore yourself also, my children, compassion towards every man with mercy, that the Lord also may have compassion and mercy upon you. Because also in the last days power will send his compassion on earth, and whosoever he findeth bowels of mercy, he dwelleth in him. For in the degree in which a man hath compassion upon his neighbors, in the same degree hath the Lord also him. And when we went down into Egypt, Joseph bore no malice against us. To whom taketh heed, do ye also, my children. Approve yourselves without malice, and love one another, and do not set down in account each one of you evil against your brethren. For this breaketh unity, and divideth all kindred, and troubleth the soul, and weary always the countenance. Observe therefore the waters, and know when they flow together. They sweep along stones, trees, and earth, and other things. And if they are divided into many streams, the earth swalloweth them up, and they vanish away. So shall ye also be, if ye be divided. Be not ye therefore divided into 2 heads, for everything which the Lord made hath but 1 head, and 2 shoulders, 2 hands, 2 feet, and all the remaining members. For I have learnt in the writing of my father that ye shall be divided in Israel, and ye shall follow 2 kings, and shall work every abomination. And your enemies shall lead you captive, and ye shall be evil entreated among the Gentiles with many infirmities and tribulation. And after these things ye shall remember the Lord and repent, and he should have mercy upon you, for he is merciful and compassionate. And he sitteth not down in account of evil against the sons of men, because they are flesh, and are deceived through their own wicked deeds. And after these things shall there arise unto you the Lord himself, the light of righteousness, and he shall return unto your land, and ye shall see him in Jerusalem for his name's sake. And again, through the wickedness of your work shall ye provoke him to anger, and ye shall be cast away by him until the time of consummation. And now, my children, grieve not that I am dying, nor be cast down in that I am coming to my end. For I shall rise again in the midst of you as a ruler in the midst of his sons, and I shall rejoice in the midst of my tribe, as many as shall keep the law of the Lord and the commandments of Zebulun their father. But upon the ungodly shall the Lord bring eternal fire and destroy them throughout all generations. But I am now hastening away to my rest, as did also my fathers. But do you fear the Lord, our power, with all your strength, all the days of your life. And when he had said these things, he fell asleep at a good old age. And his sons laid him in a wooden coffin, and afterwards they carried him up and buried him in Hebron with his fathers. All praises. I hope this reading was a blessing to you. I hope you listen to this video a couple of times, meditate on it, and may the Lord bless you.